My father isn't pleased with any of this, but the main argument revolves around what I said to and regarding his spouse, plus the reality that I simply walked out of the home. My mother passed away when I, a teenage boy, was still a preteen. She owned this vintage Melody container that she handed to me prior to becoming too ill. It held great significance for her, so I've always kept it nearby, planning to preserve it for my future children and as a memento of my mom. It stayed in my bedroom constantly, and I didn't play it often, but merely seeing it brought back memories of her since she would twirl to its tune. My dad got married again 2 years back, and his spouse and I managed okay mostly. There was some awkwardness because she assumed I'd desire a maternal presence and she'd handle parenting duties. She imagined it all in her mind and found it hard when that didn't happen. We sorted it out somewhat but never grew tight, and then she and my dad welcomed a child together, so my half-sibling became her priority, and things were okay. A few weeks ago, I returned from classes and the Melody container was gone from my room. When I questioned if she'd spotted it, she fibbed and denied it. I inquired with my dad upon his arrival from his job, and he also said no. He wondered if I'd relocated it absent-mindedly, and I replied no. I ransacked my space searching for it and checked other areas in the residence. No Melody container. I headed to sleep that evening and overheard my dad's spouse informing him she had auctioned it to fund medication for my half-sibling. She mentioned a buyer on an online marketplace paid around $2,000 for it, and she delayed removing it until shipping time because she figured I wouldn't spot it right away. Upon hearing her admit that, I dashed downstairs and shouted at her. My dad urged me to relax and suggested we could discuss it. His spouse claimed I had to grasp that my half-sibling required drugs they couldn't pay for, and the Melody container was sold to cover the expense. She insisted there was no alternative. I informed her she lacked authority, that it belonged to my mom originally and to me now, and she was a crook. She justified her choice and stated I was valuing an object over my half-sibling's well-being. I demanded she retrieve it, and she said she couldn't and wouldn't. I labeled her a revolting piece of garbage and declared she was non-existent to me. She's not my kin, she's useless rubbish, and I wouldn't reside with her or communicate with her anymore. My dad continued attempting to soothe us both. I gathered my belongings and messaged my grandfather to fetch me. My dad's spouse began screaming at me for disturbing my half-sibling. Dad suggested sleeping on it and conversing the next day. When my grandfather arrived, he attempted to prevent my departure. I stated I wasn't staying overnight in the same place as that sorceress. My dad tried to insist I couldn't leave, but I departed regardless. My dad has attempted to convince me to return ever since. He mentioned we must discuss it as a unit, and I responded there's no unit left. His spouse is non-existent to me. I won't engage with her again, and I repeated all the slurs from that evening plus extras. He advised against saying those things and that I must discover a path to pardon. He mentioned he could persuade his spouse to express regret, but we need to progress. I declined. He stated he'd challenge my grandparents and file complaints if possible. I replied I'd rest under an overpass. I'd stay in a refuge or at a green space. I said he couldn't force my return. I declared I desired no further involvement with his spouse. He said I shouldn't exaggerate like this, and I owe her remorse too, because handling someone as I did her, and speaking of her as I am is repulsive and incorrect. And he said I can't flee when I dislike occurrences. I told him my mom's Melody container is lost due to the enchantress he wed, which infuriated my dad. Am I the fool for informing Dad I want no further connection with his spouse? Not the fool. What a despicable lady. Remain where you are. If they couldn't cover meds, they can't handle legal fees. Request your grandparents to assist in submitting a law enforcement document. At that sum, it could be a serious crime. Forward the law enforcement document to the online site as well. You might recover it. It's wild, but it reveals much that they haven't thought about the lawful issues you could cause her. Like, hasn't it crossed their minds you could do this, and you justifiably despise her enough to proceed? Oh, good. It wasn't only me. Would challenge Daddy's threat with, sure, you have thousands for an attorney in domestic court to force my return to your horror of a residence, but not at least $20 for the youngest kid's health requirements. Remember, this entire mess is because your pilfering fool spouse took my possession for $2,000 since she claimed you lack funds for medicine for your other child. Go ruin yourself, Dad. Did they auction their marriage bands, her ornaments, or her vehicle? No, she solely pilfered from you. She promptly disposed of the single item of value not hers when needing cash. Surprise. Also, don't allow your dad to make you feel bad for a moment. A typical individual would abandon this person right away. I'm so sorry this occurred to you. 6 months back, my parents began caring for a young girl, Ellie, almost a preteen with certain medical problems. She's small, perhaps 3.5 feet and 40 pounds, and unfamiliar folks scare her. She's still adapting to joining a large household. I, 26 woman, have 2 sisters and 2 brothers. One sister is wed, and both brothers have their partners present. My mom worked as a caregiver at the facility where Ellie was admitted. Once we brought her home, my mom reduced to partial hours, and I adjusted my timetable to stay with her when mom's at her job. When she's unwell, she becomes attached to me. We traveled for a break last week, and I don't know why, but her stomach ached throughout our stay. So we passed most of the journey snuggled on the sofa with lots of covers and plush toys, viewing K-pop monster chasers repeatedly. My brother's partner, Stacy, is fixated on children and infants and keeps attempting to involve herself with Ellie. She inquired if Ellie wanted to visit the swimming area, the playground, the water body, if she could style her hair, if she could view K-pop monster chasers with us all week. Ellie only desires me and my mom near her when unwell, and I informed Stacy this throughout the week. Upon returning home, I observed Stacy was quite distressed. I asked what troubled her, and she said it was absurd that I monopolized Ellie all week and that I'm not the sole family member. My mom intervened and told Stacy she could cease complaining or find alternate transport home. She remained silent for the remaining trip. Then at home, Stacy resumed griping that I was monopolizing the child. My mom and I decided Stacy would no longer be permitted near Ellie. Now my brother claims I should have allowed her to join us and that she merely wants a younger sister. Now I'm questioning if I'm mistaken for dominating her all week and not permitting Stacy to join us. Not the idea. Ellie isn't an object to be shared for amusement. She's a person with emotions, desires, and requirements. Ellie solely wanted you and your mother. Her desires and requirements count. Your brother's partner doesn't view Ellie as human since she ignores what Ellie desires or requires. She just wanted to interact with Ellie for her own self-centered reasons. You and your mother made the correct choice. Almost definitely, Stacy truly didn't regard Ellie as a real individual. She views her as an animated plaything or an accessory she has some inherent claim to, as if the kid were an item. I discover that most folks obsessed with infants, kids, dogs, etc., lack any hands-on experience managing them, and it's more about adoring the concept of it for social media. As soon as they don't act as that person deems proper, they reject them. Dominating the baby? What baby? Ellie is almost a preteen. Is Stacy insane? Ellie's a person, not a plaything. There's no concept of dominating the baby, particularly when the child can voice their preferences for solace. While sick, unclear. Stacy must control her fixation on kids better because currently it appears she wants a small dog to carry, not a child. I, 21 man, am a university learner, hopeful performer, as I've secured a few minor film parts and joined productions at my nearby stage. I reside with my elder brother, 35, at his home unit. Since our parents are in another state, I can't stay with them. I lack funds for my own spot. For this, I contribute a minor share of the lease and aid with food, tidying, and basically wherever possible. Last weekend, I chose to organize a modest gathering for some of my stage and university pals just to relax and bond better. Nothing wild, with 10 to 15 folks at most.